Check.
Hey guys, this is CSDX, but you can call me Sean, and welcome back to another episode of what I like to call, But It's Not a Handheld, where I look at games that have home console versions from back in the day, but focus on the handheld versions, specifically. Mind you, this game is not that old, but it still fits the bill. Sonic Generations is a phenomenal game, having looked to be a sign of things to come in the 2010s, and boy were we wrong. Yet, as good as the game is, the rest of the 2010s had a lot of not great titles. Sonic Lost World, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, Sonic Forces, and a lot of self-deprecation that not many Sonic fans were really fond of. Turns out they were right to be that way, because if it weren't for Sonic Frontiers being the success that it is, Sonic very well could have died. And I don't mean like the April Fool's game, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. No joke, Sega said that Frontiers was their last bet for Sonic, and the gamble paid off well, thank goodness. Especially with IDW Sonic comic writer Ian Flynn writing the script. Plus, to make up for the remaster of Sonic Colors not being very bug-free, it's still a fun remaster. You guys just like to be freaking miserable. Sonic Team themselves are remastering Sonic Generations, with a very expanded extra campaign for Shadow, marking its first playable non-DLC appearance in almost 2 decades. I hope I'm not wrong about that. And with it coming soon, I decided to look at the original version for this video. No, not the 360/PS3/original PC version, you silly little man, you. Bitch! I'm talking about the 3DS version that was made and released around the same time, which also only got a digital version in 2013, interestingly enough, which in itself was a year after the 3DS eShop allowed for retail titles to be bought digitally. I just think that's a neat bit of info. Dumb, but neat. The game's story is largely the same as the home console version, but to give the basics, Sonic arrives for a surprise birthday party, but in this version, he arrives before literally everyone else. It's just Sonic and Tails, which makes me sad, because I was hoping to see Knuckles and Rouge interact in at least a semi-flirtatious manner. I need them as a couple confirmed. Same for Wispangle, dang it! Sonic and Tails are then sucked into a white void by some kind of monster, and now they have to stop it from destroying existence itself. They then find out that this thing, known as a Time Eater, was being controlled by Dr. Eggman himself, who's being helped by his past version of himself, Dr. Robotnik. The Time Eater also doesn't turn on either of them, actually, which is a first for Eggman trying to use godly abominations as a means to take over the world. He wants to undo all his past defeats, but of course, Sonic and Classic Sonic stop them, and they just whoop out of existence, I guess. Classic Sonic and Tails go back to their own timeline, and both Eggmen are stuck in the White Void, with no explanation as to how either of them returned in Lost World and Mania, respectively. One thing that bugs me with how similar the story is, though, is that some of the dialogue is not the same as the home console version. For example, the iconic line of,
"I'm gonna dedicate the rest of my life to forgetting it,"
is replaced with, and I don't understand why they did that. It just feels pointless, you know? Like getting yourself angry over an imaginary scenario you made up in your head. As for the differences, well, there are only 7 zones in this game with 2 acts and a special stage each. Yeah, well, the home console version largely just hands you the Chaos Emerald, save for when you gotta go up against 3 other characters in a rival battle. You gotta earn these in special stages that heavily rely on boosting to get it. Speaking of the 3 other characters, they decided to keep them in the 3DS version despite them not yielding anything really as a reward, and they're not very fun either. One major issue with them is Rubber Band AI, where if you manage to get far enough, they'll suddenly gain a burst of speed and move ahead of you, and Silver just teleports to your spot. Look at this! How the fuck is that fair? You tell me, because I don't know for sure, and I don't think I ever will. Plus, you don't have Badniks to rely on to refill your boost meter when facing Shadow or Silver, so unless you manage to get enough rings to fill it, which, by the way, does not include ones that got knocked out of you because fuck you, you're probably gonna be replaying these a lot. And the zones are a lot different for this version too, with the only one being the same as the home console one, being Green Hill Zone. I don't think I grammaticed that right. And don't get your hopes up, they did not include a lot of zones from handheld Sonic games. In fact, here's the list. We got Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, Casino Night Zone in Sonic 2, Mushroom Hill Zone from Sonic and Knuckles. Hey wait, this game copied Mario Odyssey 6 years prior to its release, and thus Sonic and Knuckles ripped off Mario Odyssey 28 years before it too, lol. Odyssey also ripped off Sonic's Loopy-Loop, specifically in one section, so it's not that big of a thing to be fair. But they also ripped off rolling via momentum, you know, rolling down hills with a momentum and whatnot, you know, momentum, the word that Sonic fans for some reason really dislike. and also like, and I don't understand that. But regardless, for some reason, people are too stubborn to be ready to have that conversation while always being ready to talk about how Sonic in a car stole from Mario Kart. Then we got Emerald Coast from Sonic Adventure, Radical Highway from Adventure 2. Oh, no you don't. We're going back up. We are taking that path. We're going to homing attack our way there. Okay, like I said, we're going this way actually. And the last two zones are the only handheld original zones. Water Palace from Sonic Rush and Tropical Resort from Sonic Colors DS, which could be argued that that's a stretch because it's a handheld version of Sonic Colors, but I don't care. The bosses aren't even handheld originals either. We got Big Arms from Sonic 3, which has one of my favorite remixes they've made for a boss theme ever. Oh, come on, I spent 3 minutes waiting for the best part to play and you loop it there? The Bio Lizard from Adventure 2, and the Egg Emperor from Sonic Heroes. This selection is awful. In terms of gameplay, Classic Sonic traditionally plays like Classic Sonic, but modern Sonic is also 2D, but I would say feels more like 2.5D given a few select parts of levels. Honestly though, I forgot how fun the boost formula is for these games, and the level design works great with it. You also don't have the ability to buy skills like in the home console version. Instead, you are only given two. A Stomp for modern Sonic, and a homing attack for classic Sonic. Look, I don't mind that he has that, not even a little bit. My issue with this skill, this major game-changing skill that's just handed to you on a golden platter, is that in the home console version, you need to get every single red ring of every act of every zone. Man, I'm getting a lot of phone calls today, huh? Hello? Wait, what? It's only unlocked when you get all the red rings in Planet Wisp Act 1? Huh. Why do I feel like that's still pretty sucky, though? And truth be told, it feels like it was made this way because they could not design 2/3 of the stages without Classic Sonic relying on it. And it doesn't even work half the time. It works well for the most part when having to homing attack across pitfalls, but trying to homing attack an enemy otherwise is finicky as all hell. Plus, you don't even get to play as Super Sonic in any of the levels outside of the final boss. That just sucks. On the plus side, since this game is so short, you have Versus Mode, which I didn't bother with, even though I have also a new 3DS XL for personal use to use alongside my new 2DS XL. Time Attack, which is just... I just don't care much about it. I'm sorry, I didn't want to bother with it. And Mission Mode, which is the main way to unlock stuff like weirdly zoomed in box art pics, music that barely includes any handheld game songs, and a model viewer if you're ever pervy enough to want to look at Rouge's cleavage from a higher angle. I only recorded it for the sake of the joke, I swear. Most of these missions, though, need to be unlocked via play coins, which is something earned for when you walk around with your 3DS, utilizing the pedometer feature in it, as 100 steps gets you 1 play coin for a maximum of 10 per day. You can also use play coins to unlock whatever piece of content is locked behind it without having to do the mission, but I really don't have time to earn these coins, and I also don't want to risk damaging the 2DS any further before I can repair it. So for the extra mission footage, I copied my save data of the game from the 3DS to the 2DS to show it off without the footage looking like garbage. I think I've talked long enough about this, to be honest. So I wasn't expecting to come out of this seeing the game as a mixed bag of sorts. Honestly, I do think it's a fine game. But you could easily tell that I was being more negative than I was positive, and that just shows that it makes sense that this version of the game got a 66 on Metacritic as an average score. Mind you, and I'm only saying this because the Sonic fandom is as volatile as an atomic bomb, or is it an atom bomb? Is there a difference? If you did like this game and still do, cool! I'm happy for you. But you still gotta acknowledge that it has flaws. Every single game out there has flaws, even the ones that are rated a 10 out of 10. With that said, I am very excited to see what they're going to do with Shadow's backstory in the remaster in the next, I'd say, few weeks at the time of this recording. For all I know, this could be up like days before it comes out. I forgot to record this as an outro. Also, I wasn't proud of the original outro that I did, so I guess I technically did not forget. Now, just to get this out of the way, there's a non-zero chance that the Game Grumps will be playing the Shadow campaign of the upcoming remaster, but not necessarily anytime soon, since their long series focus right now is Danganronpa V3, which is alternating with a different but relatively shorter long series each weekend. Well, I say each weekend, but that's when the long series usually pops up, and it's usually the specific long series until it's finished, or in Danganronpa's case, when a chapter is finished, and then a different long series entirely. Point is, the sooner that Sonic fans can get over that, the better. Sonic is in an absolutely much better state now than he was in the 2010s, and technically speaking, Aaron, as well as like a number of other content creators that crapped on Sonic for a while, really aren't to blame here. Like, all the blame that I'd argue could be placed on in terms of how rough it was for Sonic in the 2010s, all that blame should go to Sega. They were the ones encouraging the self-deprecation, as well as Aaron crapping on the bad Sonic games. And I say bad Sonic games because he at least was a bit more positive about good Sonic games, depending on the circumstances, and depending when he wants to be a troll or not, anyway. Besides, though, Aaron's not even an ambassador anymore, and people still can't move on from that because 90% of the praise I see for Corona-chan involves Aaron being shat on in some form. Guys, you won. Get over it.